In the far reaches of the galaxy, entire alien fleets refused to cross one border, not because of a massive human army, not because of powerful defenses, but because one single human ship had entered their territory. The alien empire laughed when they first saw it. One ship, one human pilot, against an entire war fleet. They thought it would be the easiest victory in their history. They were wrong, very wrong, because they were about to learn a terrifying truth about humanity. Humans don't retreat. Humans escalate. For thousands of years, the Zerath Dominion ruled a massive region of the galaxy. Their fleets controlled thousands of star systems, and their warships were the largest ever built. Entire civilizations had fallen before them. When the Zerath arrived, resistance was useless. Their ships were covered in heavy armor, and their weapons could destroy planets if necessary. Many alien races tried to fight them in the past, but every attempt ended the same way. The Zerath fleets crushed their enemies and turned their worlds into colonies. To the Dominion, the galaxy was simple. Strong species ruled. Weak species served. That was the natural order. And in their eyes, humanity was just another weak species waiting to be conquered. For many years, the Zerath secretly studied Earth. Their long-range probes watched human history unfold. They saw wars, arguments, and nations fighting each other. They saw humans divided by borders and beliefs. To the Zerath scientists, this was proof that humans were not united enough to be dangerous. In their reports, they wrote one clear conclusion. Humans were unpredictable, but fragile. Their technology was improving fast, but compared to the Dominion, they were still far behind. The Zerath High Council believed conquering Earth would be easy. They planned to send a massive invasion fleet that would enter the solar system, destroy Earth's defenses, and force humanity to surrender within hours. It would be another quick victory for the Dominion, another planet added to their empire. But something unexpected happened before the invasion fleet could even leave Zerath territory. One quiet day, deep inside Dominion space, a strange signal appeared on their long-range scanners. At first, the operators thought it was an error. The signal was small, almost insignificant, but it was moving, and it was moving directly toward the heart of Zerath territory. When they zoomed in on the signal, they discovered something impossible. It was a human spacecraft. Just one ship. No escorts. No fleet. Just a single vessel flying alone into one of the most heavily protected regions of alien space. The Zerath officers were confused at first. No civilization would ever send a single ship into Dominion territory. It was suicide. The Zerath Navy had thousands of warships guarding their borders. Even powerful alien alliances avoided this area. Yet this small human vessel kept moving forward calmly, as if it had nothing to fear. Soon the ship reached the outer defense perimeter. Automated defense platforms locked onto it immediately. Fighters prepared for launch. Commanders on the Zerath flagship watched the situation carefully. They expected the ship to turn around once it realized where it was. But the human vessel did not slow down. It did not change direction. It simply continued deeper into enemy territory. That was when the Zerath realized something strange. The ship was not lost. It knew exactly where it was going. Moments later, a transmission signal appeared on Dominion communication channels. A calm human voice requested permission to speak with the Zerath command fleet. The alien officers stared at each other in disbelief. A single human had entered their territory and now wanted to deliver a message. The Zerath admiral allowed the transmission. After all, capturing one human pilot would be easy, and the information they could learn from him might be useful. But none of them realized that this small moment was the beginning of something much bigger. Because the human ship was not there to surrender. It had come for a completely different reason. And before this encounter was over, the mighty Zerath Dominion would learn something they had never experienced before. Fear. The massive bridge of the Zerath flagship was silent as the transmission connected. Hundreds of alien officers watched the central screen with curiosity. The image that appeared was surprisingly simple. A human pilot sat calmly inside the cockpit of a small spacecraft. There were no signs of panic or fear in his expression. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, as if he were speaking from friendly territory instead of deep inside enemy space. The Zerath officers expected desperation or arrogance, but what they saw instead was quiet confidence. The human looked directly into the camera and began speaking in a clear, steady voice. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the United Earth Fleet. The translation systems quickly converted the words into the Zerath language. The bridge crew listened carefully. The human continued without hesitation. I have entered your territory to deliver a message from humanity. The alien commanders exchanged confused looks. One small ship carrying a diplomatic message made no sense. The Zerath admiral leaned forward in his command chair, studying the human closely. You are aware you are inside Dominion territory. The admiral replied coldly through the translator. Your ship can be destroyed at any moment. The human captain nodded slightly, as if he had expected that response. Yes, he answered calmly. I am aware. The confidence in his voice made several officers uncomfortable. Normally, any pilot facing the Zerath fleet would be terrified. Yet this human spoke as if he were completely in control of the situation. The admiral narrowed his eyes. Then deliver your message quickly before I decide to end this conversation. Captain Ward did not rush. Instead, he leaned slightly closer to the camera and spoke slowly, making sure every word was clear. Your empire is preparing an invasion of Earth. A quiet wave of surprise moved across the alien bridge. The Zerath had believed their plans were secret. The human continued speaking. We know about your fleets. We know about your strategy. And we know when you intend to strike. The admiral's expression darkened. The human was revealing information that should have been impossible to obtain. Captain Ward finished his statement with a single sentence that shocked everyone in the room. Humanity demands that the Zerath Dominion cancel the invasion immediately. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge. Then several alien officers began laughing. The idea that a single human pilot could demand anything from the Dominion was absurd. Even the admiral allowed himself a brief smile. You entered our territory alone to threaten us? He asked. The human captain shook his head slowly. No, he replied. I came to warn you. The laughter faded slightly as the tone of the conversation shifted. The admiral leaned forward again. Warn us about what? The human's eyes remained calm and focused. Warn you about humanity. The alien officers looked at each other again. This conversation was becoming strange. The admiral finally gave a dismissive gesture. Your warning has been heard and ignored. You will now surrender your vessel. Our fighters are already on their way to escort you to the nearest station. On the screen, Captain Ward remained perfectly calm. In fact, a small smile appeared on his face. You should have listened, he said quietly. Those simple words would soon become the most terrifying sentence the Zerath fleet had ever heard. The Zerath admiral ended the transmission with a simple gesture. To him, the situation was already finished. One small human ship had entered their territory, and now it would be captured. The Dominion Navy had handled far more dangerous threats before. Orders were quickly sent across the fleet. Fighter squadrons launched from nearby carriers and cruisers. Their engines burned brightly as they moved to surround the lone human vessel. On the bridge of the flagship, officers watched the tactical display as dozens of ships formed a tightening circle around the target. Escape was impossible. The human craft was completely outnumbered. Within minutes, it would either surrender or be disabled. But something strange happened as the alien fighters approached. The human ship did not attempt to flee. It did not activate its engines or charge its weapons. Instead, it remained perfectly still in the center of space, as if waiting for something. The Zerath pilots were confused by the behavior. Normally, an enemy vessel would try to escape or fight. This ship was doing neither. When the fighters closed within attack range, Captain Ward transmitted one final message across the open channel. His voice was calm and steady just like before. You should have listened to the warning. The alien pilots ignored the message and prepared to capture the ship. Suddenly, the scanners on several fighters began detecting unusual energy readings. At first, the signals were weak and difficult to understand, but within seconds the readings grew stronger. On the flagship bridge, the sensor officers looked up from their consoles in alarm. Something inside the human ship was changing. Admiral, one officer said nervously, the target vessel is generating multiple energy signatures. The admiral frowned. Multiple? That is impossible. That IT is a single ship. Before the officer could answer, the human vessel began to transform. Panels across its surface suddenly opened like mechanical wings. Sections of the hull unfolded and separated from the main body. The Zerath pilots watched in confusion as hundreds of small objects launched from hidden compartments. Then hundreds more followed. Within moments, the quiet space around the ship filled with movement. Thousands of small drones spread outward in every direction like a massive swarm of metal insects. The alien fighters were completely unprepared for what they were seeing. These were not simple defense drones. Each one carried advanced weapons and independent targeting systems. The swarm moved with perfect coordination, accelerating toward the surrounding Zerath ships. The first fighter squadron tried to react, but it was already too late. Dozens of drones attacked at once, firing concentrated bursts of energy at engines and control systems. Several fighters exploded instantly, while others spun out of control with damaged thrusters. On the flagship bridge, the tactical display suddenly filled with warning signals. "Enemy drones detected," a sensor officer shouted. Thousands of them. The admiral stared at the screen in disbelief. One small human ship had just released an entire fleet of attack drones. The human captain's voice returned to the communication channel one more time. "Humans don't fight the way you expect," he said calmly. Then the swarm began its attack on the rest of the Zerath fleet. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Zerath Dominion had ever experienced. For centuries, their fleets had relied on overwhelming size and power. Their warships were massive and heavily armored, designed to crush enemies through direct combat. Most alien civilizations tried to fight them with similar tactics, sending large ships into open battle. Those fights always ended the same way. The Dominion ships were simply stronger. But the humans had chosen a completely different approach. The thousands of drones released from the lone human vessel did not attack like a traditional fleet. They moved in unpredictable patterns, constantly changing direction and speed. Some flew directly toward the Zerath ships, while others disappeared behind them before striking weak points from unexpected angles. The alien gunners tried to track the targets, but there were simply too many. Every time a turret destroyed one drone, 5 more appeared in its place. The swarm moved like a living creature, reacting instantly to every change in the battlefield. Within minutes, the first Zerath cruiser lost its engines after several drones slammed into its propulsion system. Another ship lost its sensor array, leaving it blind in the middle of the battle. Explosions began appearing across the tactical display as the drones targeted weapons, communication systems, and shield generators. The Zerath admiral could hardly believe what he was seeing. His fleet was being dismantled piece by machines launched from a single ship. "Concentrate all fire on the human vessel," he ordered angrily. If they destroyed the source of the drones, the attack might stop. Several cruisers turned their main cannons toward the small ship at the center of the battlefield. Massive beams of energy shot across space, powerful enough to destroy an entire station. But the human ship was not defenseless. Advanced defense systems activated instantly. High-speed interceptor missiles destroyed incoming projectiles, while electronic countermeasures confused the targeting computers of the Zerath ships. Several of the alien weapons missed their target completely. At the same time, new waves of drones continued pouring out of the human vessel. It seemed impossible that such a small craft could carry so many weapons. On the communication channel, Captain Ward spoke again, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "You built your empire on power," he said. "Humans build strategy." The drones began attacking the largest ships in the fleet. Instead of trying to destroy them immediately, they targeted shield emitters and reactor cooling systems. One cruiser suddenly lost power to its shields, and seconds later a missile from the human ship struck its exposed hull. The explosion tore the vessel apart. Panic spread across the Zerath fleet as more ships began reporting critical damage. This battle was no longer a simple capture operation. It had turned into a disaster. And the worst part was that the human ship was still standing untouched in the middle of the battlefield. After 20 minutes of intense fighting, the battle finally slowed. The once powerful Zerath fleet was now scattered and heavily damaged. Several cruisers had been destroyed while many others drifted helplessly through space with broken engines and disabled weapons. The small human ship remained in the center of the battlefield, surrounded by its surviving drones. On the flagship bridge, the Zerath admiral stared at the tactical screen in shock. He had commanded hundreds of battles throughout his career, but he had never seen anything like this. One human vessel had crippled an entire fleet. Slowly, the remaining drones returned to their carrier ship and formed a defensive circle around it. The battlefield became quiet again. Then the communication channel opened once more. Captain Elias Ward appeared on the screen exactly as he had at the beginning of the encounter. Calm, focused, completely unafraid. This battle was not an invasion, he said. It was a message. The alien admiral listened in silence. He finally understood the truth. The human ship had never come here to win a war. It had come to prove a point. Captain Ward continued speaking. Your empire believes humans are weak because we argue among ourselves. You think our conflicts make us fragile. He paused for a moment before finishing his statement. But you misunderstand something important about humanity. The admiral leaned forward slightly despite himself. The human's voice became firmer. When humanity faces a common enemy, we unite. Images of the destroyed Zerath ships were still visible on the tactical display behind the admiral. The human captain spoke one final time. You plan to invade Earth. This ship is only the messenger we sent ahead. A quiet silence filled the alien bridge. The meaning of those words was terrifying. If one ship could do this much damage, what would an entire human fleet be capable of? Captain Ward gave the final warning. Turn your invasion fleet around. Forget about Earth. The human pilot looked directly into the camera. Because if you come for our world, the ships that follow will not come to send messages. With that final sentence, the human ship turned away from the battlefield and activated its engines. The drones formed a protective formation around it as the vessel began its journey back toward human space. The Zerath admiral did not give the order to pursue. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Dominion fleet allowed an enemy ship to leave freely. Because now they understood something they had never truly believed before. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was dangerous. And sometimes it only took one human ship to prove it. The lone human ship slowly disappeared into the darkness of space. Its engines left a faint trail of light as it moved toward the distant stars. Around the battlefield, broken Zerath ships drifted silently. Some were heavily damaged while others were nothing more than burning wreckage. The once proud Dominion fleet had been reduced to chaos by a single human vessel. On the bridge of the Zerath flagship, the atmosphere was completely different from before. Earlier there had been confidence and arrogance. Now there was silence. Officers stood at their stations staring at the tactical screens, unable to believe what had just happened. The admiral slowly stood from his command chair and walked toward the main display. The image showed the last known position of the human ship as it left their territory. One ship, he said quietly. No one on the bridge answered. Every officer knew what he meant. The Dominion had fought entire civilizations before and crushed them without difficulty. Yet this battle had been different. This had not been a full human fleet. This had been a warning. The admiral replayed the battle data again. Thousands of drones deployed from a vessel that appeared far too small to carry them. Perfect coordination between machines and pilot. Precision attacks that disabled ships instead of wasting energy on random destruction. It was not just power. It was intelligence. The admiral realized something that made him uneasy. Humanity had not tried to destroy the entire fleet, even though they clearly had the ability to do so. The human captain had chosen his targets carefully. Engines, sensors, shields, weapons. Just enough damage to prove a point. Just enough destruction to make sure the message was understood. The admiral turned to his officers. Send a report to the High Council, he ordered. Full battle analysis. No details omitted. One officer hesitated before asking the question everyone was thinking. Admiral, what about the planned invasion of Earth? The bridge became silent again. The admiral looked at the damaged fleet outside the view window. He imagined what would happen if hundreds of ships like the one they had just fought suddenly appeared in Dominion territory. If one human captain could cause this much damage, a full human fleet could be catastrophic. Finally he spoke. Cancel the invasion preparations, he said slowly. The officer looked surprised but quickly nodded and began sending the command. Across the Dominion communication network, the order spread rapidly. The massive invasion fleet that had been preparing to attack Earth was suddenly placed on hold. For the first time in centuries, the Zerath Dominion had chosen caution instead of conquest. Far away in human space, Captain Elias Ward's ship finally reached the edge of friendly territory. The drones returned to their storage chambers, and the ship resumed its normal form. When the transmission from Earth Command arrived, the captain listened quietly. The mission had been a success. The Zerath fleet had stopped their advance. Earth was safe, at least for now. Captain Ward looked out at the stars ahead of him. Humanity was still young compared to many alien empires. Their fleets were smaller and their territory was limited. But humanity possessed something many older civilizations had lost: courage, creativity, and the ability to turn impossible situations into victory. Somewhere deep in Zerath territory, an alien admiral was now warning his leaders about the dangers of provoking humanity. The message had spread across the stars. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not weak. And if anyone threatened their home, humanity would rise to defend it, even if it meant sending a single ship into enemy territory to prove it. Rocket, if you enjoyed this story of human defiance and power, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because in this galaxy, humanity never backs down. And the next story will be even more unbelievable.